Okay, please join everyone quickly. We'll start out. Okay, hope my screen is visible. Okay. Uh, okay, so see guys, new questions have been added in the model. So tomorrow's session, you can practice these questions, okay? These questions are based on Python data structures, lists, and tuples. So before solving the question, please revise the last session, whatever the topics we covered. Quickly, I'll tell you the ways to analyze the question and before solving. So please go through the list questions, tuples, nodes, eval, what is eval function, how to work with the maps, some of the important inbuilt functions in list and tuples. Okay. Lambda, how we use lambda function, different ways of reading the list of value. This is very important because I have given a lot of conditions on how to read the input values based on the question. Sometimes we are reading the input values with the space, sometimes with a comma, right? So you should know how to read the input values based on the test cases. And please remember, all the programs will have at least one hidden test case, right? So that you people know how to solve the given problem. Otherwise, what you will do is you will copy using if else. Then if n equal to 5, you will print the values. So please don't do that. From now on, you can't do that also, even if you want to do, because every program will have hidden test cases. Only if your program is completely correct, you will get all the test case matched. You might escape with 1 or 2 test cases, but it won't work out with all the test cases. So maximum you can score is 8 or is 7.5 if you're copying in that way. So better way is to analyze the question and do it on your own. Don't use all your smart brains. No cut it. So a lot of questions I've added, and in the coming weeks also we will be getting a lot of questions. So there is plenty of content to be practiced upon in Python. So I given time for you to complete your mid exam, so I didn't disturb anything related to Python. I just wanted you to concentrate on your mids and complete it peacefully. So now next to 1 or 2 weeks, completely involved in Python because you don't have much to prepare on mid exams or anything as such. So utilize this time, practice whatever the questions I am adding in the Moodle, even in the lab, after the lab, whenever you get free time, Make sure you're solving at least one problem in a day. So this particular module will be opened for tomorrow, day after tomorrow, and up to next session also. So you can access this program for next 1 or 2 weeks also. It will be open. We'll keep it open so that everyone learns and practices the problem. Please give importance to the constraints also, whatever the constraints I'm giving. This question right now is not needed. I'll hide it. So right now you can have 11 programs are there. You can practice this 11 programs. So I'll be adding the hidden test cases for all these problems, right? Most of the problems will have a hidden test case. So I'm going to give you the instruction. Suppose if some test case doesn't match, you will see the message as something like this: general hidden test case. You will see the message like this. So what does that mean is there is no any extra constraint on the given question. It is just a normal test case. Suppose if you give valid input and if it is a valid output, still if you're not getting that one, you will see the error message like this. If it is anything related to the size, you will get size of list exceeded, something like that. Size of list exceeded, or invalid data, invalid input, type error, or attribute error. So all these kind of messages you will be getting in the hidden test cases whenever the test case doesn't match. Got it? Suppose see for this, for example, here, suppose if this test case doesn't match, you won't able to see this test case. You will only see this message now from now on. So that means you can't copy this and no using if I can't execute like that. So you have to work on with the logic only. So basically, these kind of constraints I'll be giving, right? Make sure that you are working with the proper logics. So these are all list problems I've added. In the coming days, you will be getting tuples problem also. Okay. Right now, tomorrow you can practice on list problems in the labs. All these problems are based on list only. List operations. What is the largest number of list? Given a list with some items greater than 10, print out smallest thing larger than 10. This is so you need to print out any smallest element that is larger than 10 in the given list. For example, if the input is like this 1, 20, 5, 30, 50. So given a list with some items greater than 10. So how many items are greater than 10? 20, 30, 50. Print out smallest element, thing and element, smallest element larger than 10, right? Smallest element larger than 10. Which one is the smallest element larger than 10 here? You can post your message. Yeah, I will enable the quiz. Yes. So quiz is available now. All of you take up the quiz first. Yeah, please take up the quiz. You will have a 15 minutes time. Once you start attempting the quiz, you will get 15 minutes time for that. Go through the questions. All of them are coding questions. So simultaneously, I'll be telling you how to think about these questions. These are the very important coding questions you will be getting in the interview rounds. These kind of questions you need to practice. Okay. Yeah. So the smallest element greater than 10 is 20. So that you need to print actually. So see the question, read it carefully. Oh, time left 25 minutes. Time limit is 15 minutes only. So 76 people are attending the quiz right now. Please inform your friends also. The quiz questions will not be enabled after the session. They have to attend the session. So all the questions are based on the Python data structures. So it is having a combination of list, tuples, dictionary, lambda, map, all the concept that we covered in the last few sessions. So here the question consists of lambda function. It is a combination of list of tuples, this question. In this question, you are having a list along with tuple. It is a combination of tuple inside the list. Same thing here. What will be the output? So please understand the question and solve it. Don't do just for the sake of attending it. You need to explore the syntaxes, the rules of the tuples list, and how to access the elements using map and lambda. The foundations are very important. If you copy by others, it won't help you. Understand the question and do it. Anyway, I'll explain if you don't get the answers. We'll explain, we'll discuss the questions later on. Those who joined late, please take up the quiz. Okay, the quiz will close by 40:45. So I'm closing it by 7 o'clock. Those people who joined, still many people are not taking up the quiz. Okay, please take up the quiz quickly. Anyone completed? Okay. Think those who started at 6:40, they would have completed by now. Okay. So those who completed, they can. So you can concentrate on the topics that I'm going to cover. Those who are taking up the quiz still, you can complete and come back. Yeah. So in the last class, I think I started Java, Python oops, right? Object-oriented programming. But before going to that, I just want you to tell you the various different ways of reading the input, right? Because in certain cases, I have given such conditions. Uh, you should know what kind of conditions we have while reading the inputs, because a lot of people are sorry, they're facing the problem in how to reading the inputs only, they're not able to understand. Correct. So just observe different various ways of reading the input. And there are some functions in inbuilt functions in Python, which is called as inbuilt library, a random library, right? So I'm not added any model questions based on random library, because you can't give the test case for the random function, because every time you execute, the output will be different. So you can't give the fixed test case for the random programs. So you should know this, what is a random library, what kind of uh, logics you can apply using this particular library. So it is necessary to generate some random sequence of characters, right? For example, if you see OTP, you know OTP, right? You will get OTP messages, or password, random password by Google suggestion. So in such cases, the random library is very important to generate a random list of values, right? Whenever based on the situation, if it is required. So for int range, L dot append random is 0 to 20. Basically, we are generating list of 20 random numbers, correct? Then we are counting what is the count of 2 in that, basically in that list. Here we are generating 0 to 20 list, and we are counting how many 2s are in this particular list. So you can see in this list there is no particular 2s there. Suppose if I re-execute, not audible. Is my voice audible for everyone or only for you? Audible. Harsha, check your internet connection. Okay. So if I re-execute, see now I am getting the number of zeros, or you can say number of twos, right? I'm counting number of twos. Number of twos. So you can see I'm getting two values, because every time I execute it, the output changes, the list of values changes. because this random function is generating random number of integers from 0 to 20 range. So you can't give the fixed test case for these kind of random function questions. So my suggestion is you can explore this particular library, try more problems. If you want, I'll add the questions so you can practice in any compiler. But as a part of the activity in model, you can't add this because test case won't match every time you run it. So index equal to random into 0 to length of L minus 1. So we are generating again in this particular list, we are generating again next random integers, but we are trying to add 100 to this particular index. So every time this 100 will be added separately. You see. So when I executed this, 100 is added in this particular position because we don't know which index this particular integer, random integer is giving from the list. Then if I execute again, one more 100 is added here. So it is going to add the 100 value into the random into the list randomly because the index position is not fixed. So these kind of problems are helpful to generate random sequence of values for password generation, for OTP generation kind of situations. So explore this library. Hope everyone completed quiz. To 42 people. I think it would have closed by now. Yeah, 7 o'clock. So still, I think it's ongoing. So some people have got 9, 10, but average is 3.54. So these kind of questions you need to solve because, as I told you now, coding rounds is very important. Before coding round, quiz rounds will be there. Pseudo code quiz rounds will be there. So today's quiz is all about small code snippets. So still people have not attended the class. So okay. So let me just quickly go through these problems so that everyone learns it. So if anyone wants to interact, you can just unmute yourself. Please don't disturb the class. Before talking, unmute and talk and immediately mute yourself. Okay. If anyone have any question or interaction, if you want to have, fine. So this is what basically, first you need to understand what is the input. So once you get the clarity of what is the code, and then you can think about what is the answer. So what is the first line here? So anyone wants to interact, they can talk, not an issue. Okay. So what is this line? Is it a list or is it a tuple or what it is?
It's a list, sir.
Can you say it is a list of tuples or?
Yes, a list of tuples.
Yeah, tuples. List of tuples or tuples, whatever you say. I always call it tuple. I spell it wrong actually. Anyway, so it is a combination of two values. So this every index is called as a tuple actually, correct? So what we are doing here is we are applying sorted function. So you should have explored this functions inbuilt library function. So sorted, for this sorted function, we are applying the price. First parameter is price, then key value. Key value is I am giving the entire function. So you know, right? You can call lambda function at any time based on the given items in the list. So what we are doing here is we are again putting one more condition, reverse equal to true. So basically we are reversing the list of tuple values based on what? based on x of 1. So what is x of 1? Based on float of x of 1. Because this particular data, is it an integer or whether it is a float or whether it is a string? Can anyone tell me?
It is a string, sir. It is in quotes.
So whenever the data is in quotes, compiler considers that as a string or character, you can say. So before processing, I have to convert that into float, then apply sorted function. But in which order? In the reverse order. So basically we are sorting this list of tuples in the reverse order based on the second value of the tuple. So okay, second value is what? The x of 1 is 12.20, 15.10, 24.5. So the output will be, as per this condition, the output will be this. Item equal to item 3, 24.5, item 2, 15.10, item 1, 12.20. Okay. So we are basically putting entire thing in one line. We are applying lambda function, right? Key is lambda. Basically, what is this key is doing here? I don't know what should I pass to this sorted function, right? So I'm finding out the key value based on this lambda function. So every time I call the x, right, for the sorted value, it is going to fetch float of x of 1 for me, the key value. So the key value, I'm getting it from this particular the price. From the price, x will be x of 1. Every time I'm calling that sorted function, we're passing each individual index position of tuples. So these kind of questions you need to practice, so it becomes easy to understand things. Secondly, again, what is this? Is it a, can you call it as a list, or it is also list of tuples? You can say a tuple embedded inside a list, correct? Only one tuple is there. So we can have a list of values along with the tuples, right? This is allowed in Python. So what is this code is checking? Basically, there is an inbuilt function in Python, is instance, right? For each instance, we are passing n and tuple. We are checking whether in this particular n, does tuple exist or not. So in this list, what is the list? For n in num, for each element, we are checking in the list, is there any tuple embedded inside the list? We are checking. So if there is an instance of tuple inside the list, right, we will break. If it is not there, otherwise we will say we will go to the next element, control equal to control plus 1. So how many such tuples are there in this? Only one tuple is there, so output will be 1 here. So suppose if this contains another value, something like this, 30 comma 40 in the bracket here, so we will be getting the output as 2. Basically, we are checking how many tuples are embedded inside the list. What is this one? The highlighted part. Can you call it as a list comparison? Correct. So list comparison we are doing here. So you see the lot of things you can do with the list comparison. Again, here also we are having list of tuples. What we are doing here? What does this do? -1.
It reads the list from the reverse.
Last in the reverse.
Prints the list from the reverse. But while printing, what is doing? First, we are accessing t of -1 from each tuple in the list, right? T of -1 plus we are adding 100. Basically, every last element of the tuple is changed to 100. You can see, correct? 10, 20, 100, 40, 50, 100, 70, 80, 100. So basically, for t in L, for every tuple in the list, access the last value in the tuple, right? Add plus 100 to that. Basically, we are modifying that value. So you can access the values and modify the value using the tuple, right? So that tuple allows you to modify the values directly. So this is an updation of tuple values, basically using list comparison. Yeah. So this question I wanted to give so that again you should know how does the Python codes work. So this is a tuple, right? When you print a tuple using printf statement and dot format function, right? So we are not just printing the first value, we are printing the entire tuple. These kind of codes will confuse you basically. So you should practice such kind of questions to have a clarity. So zero, generally what we think, zero indicates zeroth element is 100, 200, 300, but we are not you passing the list of values or using any subscript operator here. We are using format function. We are trying to print tuple as a string here. So this question will print tuple as a string. So it will print as it is, whatever you given here, it will print as it is on the screen. So that is called as converting tuple as a string. This code converts tuple as a string. And this was quite, if you know it, it is fine, but it was a little bit tricky basically. So what we are doing here? What is this code is doing, anyone? For A,
Hello,
comma
sir.
B in L. Yeah.
First, we are taking an empty dictionary D. We are running a loop. A comma B are some variables. We are like appending some values into D. So first A comma that square bracket indicates that we are telling that it's consider A as a list data type, A comma that.
Okay.
And that B as like the number, like that 1, 2, 3, append it like A comma append it. So the answer will be like something like D, sir.
So for every again element in the list, for each tuple we are accessing. So to understand this code perfectly, first thing, those who got incorrect answer, no need to worry. First, to go and explore how this set default works. Until you understand how the set default function works, you can't have a clarity on these kind of questions. Okay, even if I explain 100 times also, you'll get doubt. First, you need to know the rules. So what is accepted? What are the parameters that set default will take up? So if there is a basically set default will take A, and again as your friend explained, A will be this one. Then we are creating an empty list. For this empty list, we are appending the B values of this particular list. So A value and this X, and all the B values are this 1, 2, 3. Correct? So wherever this A value matches with this X, we are combining that into 1, 2, 3. Then Y value 1, 2, then Z value 1. Basically, we are creating a dictionary from what? This code is creating what? So please write down you need to know what are these kind of questions are called as. If you don't understand, at least you should know what kind of category this course comes under. So we are creating what here? Creating dictionary from list of tuples. Correct or not? Can you name this like this? This code like this? This code creates a dictionary from list of tuples. Right? The correct answer is D. X123, Y12, Z1. So please go and explore the set default function. So this one was quite simple if you know the basics. So basically we are reversing the given tuple, right? Then we are printing that Y. So most of you would have answered this. So not all questions will be difficult. So you need not to worry too much. At least out of 10, if you are able to solve 7, 8, you are in the right path. So I don't expect everyone should get 110 out of 10 or 15 out of 15. If you're able to solve 8, 9, 10, no problem. So you can constantly improve upon. Yeah, so there is something called as zip function, right? So a lot of library functions will be there based on list data structures. So you have to explore those inbuilt libraries. So what is this doing again? It is taking up the list of tuple values from the given list, right? Then combining them one by one alternatively. So it will combine first row values, first index values like 138, then 249. That is the job of zip function. It will alternatively take the values from list of tuples index wise 0, 1, 2. So this is 0, 0th value one side, first index value one side. So output is 138249. So that is the answer. So that is job of the zip function. Yeah, so what we are doing here. Again, this is a basic tuple operation, right? Is it, can we call this, what do you name this question? I want to ask this. What you can name to this question? What kind of category this question comes under?
Slicing and concatenating.
Slicing and concatenating. Okay, you can call that, or you can say updating the existing tuple with a new set of tuple values. Correct? That also you can call concatenation. Also, it's fine. So this comes under basic tuple operation. This code comes under basic tuple operation, modifying the existing list, adding the new values and all. So this slicing, all of you are aware already. So we'll access the values up to 2. That means 4 and 6. Correct. Then we'll concatenate new set of values, that is 15, 20, 25. So the D will be the answer. Correct. So you need not to solve fully. At least if you understand this first 2 questions, you can directly think that, okay, this will be the correct answer. So you need not to solve completely. Tuplex of 5 again. The last from the original tuplex until 5, we are again concatenating 4, 6, 2, 8, 3. Can you call this question as unpacking? Unpacking tuple? Yeah. So it comes under unpacking tuple. So you are having a tuplex value. So why there is no bracket here? Is it an error or is it allowed? You know that tuple is created using bracket, right? Why there is no bracket? So you can create a tuple without a bracket, I told you in the last session, right? So it is not mandatory to put bracket for the tuple, but generally it should be followed. So we are unpacking these values of the tuple into the individual variables called as n1 into n3. Then we are summing up all of them. So the correct answer is 15. See, you again see, the problem is you might thought, okay, it is a concatenation of the string. Suppose if it is a string, it might be correct. Suppose if these values are strings, this would be the correct answer. But tuple will consider them as integer values. Correct? Data type has to be matching. Again, this is a lambda based question. So what we are doing here, we are calling, you know how to call the lambda, right? Based on the whatever the name you are assigned here. So the name of the for the name of the lambda function, to call the lambda function, what is the name I have used? var, right? So lambda has its own expression x, right? Lambda x for each value. So true if x dot starts with x, else false. So basically I'm checking for each character in this string. I'm checking if this string, I'm just checking whether if this string starts with x or not. So if it is, suppose if it starts with p here, if I change this x to p, the answer would have been true. So this is just a basic lambda question. If you know the how does the lambda works, you would have able to understand this. This is also based on lambda combined with map function, correct? So I told you map function is very useful to do a lot of complex operations. So at least right now, basic questions, these kind of questions, all of you should be able to do. So this is a list of 3 values, correct? What it is doing basically, summing up all the values in the list. Is it summing row wise or column wise? Anyone?
Column wise, sir.
Column wise.
What is the reason?
First element in num1, first element in num2. Like
X comma y comma z, x plus y plus z. So here we have mentioned, right? Num1, num2, num3. Okay. So this entire expression is embedded inside map. So you know map, what is the syntax of map?
function comma iterables.
Function comma iterables. So whatever you are passing here, they have to be iterables. Suppose if they are not iterables, again, this code may not work. So first you need to know what are the types of data which are considered as iterables. So explore that, understand what are the iterable meaning. So for each of these iterables, which we are passing to the Lambda function, correct? We are taking up each values one by one, then summing up them. 147, 258, 369 is the answer. So here what we're doing, filter function I discussed in the last class, correct? List we are having. We are creating the list out of this filter. What is this basically doing? What you can call this? Is it removing the common elements or displaying the common elements? It is
Displaying, sir.
Union of two lists. You can call like this, no? Yes or no? Okay, there is no D option here. Okay, I think I missed it. So union of two lists, is that right? We are displaying the combination of common values of two lists in the combination of values in the two lists, correct? So which are the common values for both the list 1 to 89, right? So that's why the answer is 1 to 89. So how it is working? We are calling the filter function. So for each element in the array, list 1 and list 2, if that value is in that array, right? What we are doing, we are filtering it out and storing it in the list. So that is the job of filter function. So a lot of applications are there using inbuilt function. Whatever the new function you are listening or exploring, write down. Later it will be useful for you to solve a lot of problems. This is a set based question. Again, here we are creating a union of the set. Okay, union of the set. Why? Again, the confusion you see, the green, blue, yellow, you might have given. You need to understand why it is reverse, because set C2 data we are concatenating into set C1, right? So set C1 dot union set C2. So can anyone tell me why it is blue, green, yellow? Why not green, blue, yellow?
Alphabetical order?
No, it's not. It's nothing like alphabetical order. Whatever the set C2 data we have there, that we are storing, comparing with the set C1. Okay. So you can understand in that way, or check. I don't know whether that condition also matches. If it supports alphabetical order or not, you check it out. But generally, whatever the parameter you are passing here, that is my way of analyzing. So if it is alphabetical order, you let me know. The same question, the symmetric difference. What do you mean by symmetric difference? The values which are not common in both the sets. That is called a symmetric difference, right? Here blue is common for both the sets. So we'll be picking up green and yellow. So the answer is green and yellow. So this is again zip based question. Already I explained this. So we are taking values in the list 1 and list 2, and we are creating the dictionary out of it. Correct? So we are creating a dictionary of the list 1 and list 2. So red FF00, this is the dictionary dictionary value 1, green 00800, dictionary value 2, like that we are creating the dictionary from the given two sets. So what kind of questions, if you are able to understand, then it becomes easy. So first you need to look it into whether it falls under list or tuple, or whether it's a valid keyword, valid syntax. So these kind of questions will help you to analyze your theoretical knowledge and apply it into practical way of solving the problem. A lot of people still need to improve on. So please explore, because all these things won't be repeated in the future. See, the average is very less actually, 3, 4, 5. Only few people are in the range of 8, 9, 10. 6, 9, 6. Only one student is in 10. Okay. So randomly, I'll be conducting these kind of quizzes. There will be no intimation or anything because they all are basic questions. Should be green, blue, yellow only. No. Which one you're talking about? This one, huh? Yeah. Is that correct? Yeah. So the output is, you can see, blue, green, yellow. So let me change this to C2. Now what is happening? So it is not alphabetical order. Someone told me, right? It is not alphabetical order. So what parameter you are passing here, that depends on. So set C1 content will be unioned with set C2 content. So first set C1 content, what is there? So set C2 dot union of set C1. So blue, yellow, green. Initially how it was? Set C1. Like this it was, right? Okay. So yellow. Okay.
Sir,
Fine. I understood. So the mistake I did is, it is a set, right? So whether set is ordered or unordered.
sets are unordered.
Yeah. Okay. So that's why these kind of questions I can't put in the Moodle questions actually. So you can consider this any order, you can consider it as a, yeah, I made a mistake here. Sorry. So sometimes, no, these kind of questions will confuse you. So it is not a fixed order. See, every time you run it, it will be a different output because sets are unordered. Sets are unordered. Any operation that you are doing with sets, the final output will not be in the particular order. So those who have given green, blue, or whatever, except set C1 dot union X. So basically, except double time blue, if you given these three answer, the answer is correct. Okay. Fine. So that's what I'm telling you. Sometimes these kind of questions will confuse even if you know the things. Make sure that basics are immediately you should be able to understand. That's the importance of these questions. Okay, so I was explaining. Go through these questions which I've added in model. Tomorrow, at least try to solve. Okay, numbers are mismatching. 7, 8. This is 9th one. So in the coming days, I'll be adding a lot of questions. So please be active in the Python programming in Moodle. Whenever you get free time, you solve it. All these questions are based on list. Okay. Very basic questions and must know questions actually. These questions will help you to know in and out of how to read the values, how to access the list value, tuple values, the foundation questions, you can say. Yeah. So quickly, I will go through this reading list of values topic because a lot of things, these programs, lot of things depends on how you read the values. Once you know the clarity, how to read the values, you will be able to solve them. So quickly, I'll go through them. So, all of you are using different ways of reading the input. So I'm just telling for one last time how to read list of values in a various way. Okay. So one common way all of you are using is what? Input dot split, right? Input dot split. In the last class, we spoke about eval function. You can read from map function, correct? And list comprehension we can use. So here, can anyone tell me what is the way we are reading the input here? Are we reading like this at a time in the list? Or are we mentioning the size and we have to read one by one? Correct?
One by one.
Yeah. So in your question, you need to be very careful about what is the format of the reading. Suppose in the first, if they say enter the size of the list first, then enter the elements, then you should be reading them one by one. Suppose if you type like this at a time, it will not work. Then people will confuse, sir, I'm entering the data correctly, still I'm not able to solve. So because you don't know how to read the input only. So a lot of people are texting me like that, sir, I'm reading properly, but I'm not able to solve it. So that's why I'm clarifying these doubts for those people who don't know how to read various ways. So this is one way. First read the size of the list, then enter the elements one by one. This is one way. So what is this called as?
List comprehension.
Reading list of input values. So you can note down all of you. Reading list of input values from the user. One after the other, correct? One after the other. Using which technique? Using list comprehension. Correct? So this is the list comprehension technique, right? So this is the function I'm calling for every element in the list. So int of, why I'm doing int of input? Because again, for every element that I'm calling, entering, that should be converted into integer. So for each element for I in range A. So whatever the range you have mentioned, for that many range values, you should enter the list of inputs. This is one way of taking the input. This most of you are using already, but I'm just summing it up here. Suppose if they ask enter space separated integers. So all of you know that using dot split you can do. But again, it will be read as string. So you need to convert each of the values that you read as integer into the list. Okay. Again, same list comparison you can call and you can store them in the another list. Okay. So this is also same using list comparison. X equal to int of x for x in input, enter multiple values, dot split. Here, am I mentioning the size here? Please make a note. What is the difference between this cell and this cell? Can anyone tell me? Any difference?
You are taking the size at runtime.
No. Yeah, here we are taking the size. Are we taking the size here? In
No,
this,
sir.
are we taking the size?
No, sir.
So some questions where I went given is I'm not asking you to enter the size. I'm just giving you the random length of list of values. So depending upon my test case, you need to adopt the question. So for some questions, I'm not asking you to enter the size of the list. So what you can do directly, you can enter the multiple values one by one. So this is without mentioning the size. Here with mentioning the size. That's the only difference. Okay. Dot split. Oh no, here also you're not mentioning, right? Sorry. Yeah, here we are mentioning. It is both the cells, this one and this, we are not mentioning any size for the entering the list of values. But what is the difference here? Using list comprehension, what we are doing? Int of x for x in input, dot split, everything, this entire things are combined into one single line using list comprehension, right? So a lot of different ways you can apply. Then one more way is reading using map function. Okay, reading using map function. So I explained in the last class also. If they give the condition that you need to apply the map function only, that time you need to understand how the map function work. In Moodle, I'm not giving those conditions, but in the coming week or coming weeks, I'll be giving hacker rank contests. Okay. Have you all of you created the accounts?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so sir. Keep waiting for the context. I'll be at least giving you minimum 2 or 3 HackerRank contests based on all the things with what we discussed. But before going to that HackerRank contest, I want you to solve all the problems in Moodle and get familiar with the syntaxes, basics and all. So in HackerRank also I will explain in one session how to execute codes in the HackerRank and how to explore the options, features available. And if they give only certain parts you need to modify, you should be updating your code there only. So you can't delete their existing code. A lot of securities will be there in that. So please say change your accounts and wait for the contest that I'll be updating in the coming weeks. So here map function we are calling, right? For each map function is taking what? This is the function. This is the parameter. So input is taken from the user and each input is converted into integer using map function and splitted and stored in the list at a time. So this is using map function. So if they mention that you should read the input using map function, means you should be doing this kind of syntaxes only. Similarly, so here we are same function. We have to read input using comma operator. So some questions I mentioned, read comma separated input values, 1 comma 2 comma like that. So same map function you can call, dot split you can mention the comma here. That is one way. Okay, the why it is error, enter number of, see here. Suppose if they mention eval, so I mentioned here, eval function cannot read input with spaces. Suppose if I mention that you need to read the input using eval function only, but what is the problem here? Eval function cannot read input with the spaces. So you have to give an expression only. So see here, you can read a comma separated input using eval function. Then you can immediately convert that data into list. Okay. What is the default parameter or default data type that eval creates? Anyone? Suppose same thing I'll update here. Numbers 2. I don't want to convert it into list. I'll print numbers 2. Can you note the difference? What is the difference between this and this?
One is a list, other one is a tuple.
So what is the default return type of eval function? Eval returns what type of data?
Tuples.
So eval returns tuple of values. If you don't convert or if you don't mention any parameter constraint here, default return type of eval is list of tuple of values, right? So in such cases, you should be very careful when you are solving the problem. So if you are not converting that into whatever the format that you want into, you will get a lot of syntax errors. Okay. So sometimes you can't modify tuple elements, right? Or index is not accessible because you are given some list condition. So before solving, you should convert this into appropriate format. So that's why here what we did, we converted the list of values, whatever you are entering from the user, into a proper list. By default, you can keep it as it is if it is not necessary. Okay. Again, this is also one of the different way you can say, like we did in the first code, reading list of n values separately. So list of n values, you have to take them into list only. So enter the number of students, create empty list. So this all of you know, append the data. This is also possible separately, one by one if they ask. So if you want to do the same thing above, you can combine with map and lambda, right? This also leads the list of student data one by one using map and lambda function. So for map, the parameter that we are passing is the lambda, and the values that are coming from is the range of n. So for each value of n in the list, correct? So you're taking the input from the user, and you are storing it into another list called as students. So same thing you can do. This is also same. Enter the number of students, and here what you are doing, space separated strings without comma. This also we discussed already. So these are various ways of reading the input from the user. So first thing that you need to have clarity is whether you are reading the data properly. Once your data is read properly, then your half problem is solved. We can only think on logic. Okay. So please go through this different ways of, I put it as a, what is the heading I put it? Different ways of reading the list of values. Okay. So coming back to the OOPS concept, we started, I think, the OOPS concept in the last session. I couldn't cover much, but I think some topics I explained, right? So what is OOPS? Basically, object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming. So what are the major features of OOPS I spoke about? Class, object, method, inheritance, polymorphism, data abstraction, and encapsulation, right? These are most important topics for any language, you can say. Not only Python, even Java also it will come, right? C# also it will come. Lot of modern programming languages are based on these concepts only. And real-time applications also they'll give based on these kind of topics, right? So in the last session, one of your mentor got one exam suddenly without any intimation. Is already selected in company TCS. So they will send an email and they ask them to write complete one class object in HackerRank directly. They gave some code, just 10 minutes 10 minutes exam it is. So questions will come randomly and the students has to, wherever they are, they can open that HackerRank portal, complete that class, whatever they have given. So it was based on Java. So till right now also, the OOPS concepts are very real-time applications that are currently used everywhere. So knowing this OOPS concept in and out is your main goal. It should be, because lot of companies are asking for OOPS concept only. You should be having foundation, proper foundation in OOPS concept. Okay. So class, I told you what is class. Class can be defined as a collection of objects, right? Object means object is an entity that has a state and behavior. So for example, if I take GRIT as a class, who are the objects? Who are the objects?
Departments.
Okay, if you think departments, who are the objects for the departments?
Students.
Right? So for department, you can say the faculty can be the objects. For GRIT as a college, the main objects are what? Students. So the class doesn't exist if there are no objects, correct? So if you say GRIT as a class, it has certain features, it has certain data which you need to work upon, right? It has certain departments, it has certain courses that it is offering. So to use all of them, what you require? You require an object, right? So who are the objects? Students are the object. So the class doesn't have any meaning if there is no object. Class only tells you that this is there, that is there, correct? But object makes use of those data, correct? So that is the importance of object. So it is like class is like, like a movie that is getting released, correct? For example, if some movie is releasing, so you can consider that as a class. But if no one is going for the movie, then that movie doesn't have any application, right? It doesn't have any use. So the viewers are the people who are going to watch the movie, they are the objects. So that is the relationship between class and object. So class and objects are going together here, right? Without class, object doesn't exist. Without object, class doesn't have any meaning. Class can exist without object, but it doesn't have any meaning. Okay. Class can have some specific attributes and methods. For example, you told, right? GRIT, if you take as a class, attributes you can take like the departments, right? Or the courses that is offered, like civil, EC, mechanical, CS. Those are, you can call it as attributes. What are the methods? Methods, you can call it as the departments which are working for these attributes. Yes or no? Suppose if I say attributes are civil, mechanical, AC, ESE, right? So methods are the individual departments under which, using which these attributes have certain application. So basically methods makes use of these attributes, correct? For example, if you have an employee class, then what is the meaning? It should contain an attribute and method. So what are the attributes for an employee class? Can be email ID, name, age, and salary. Can anyone tell me what could be the possible method based on these attributes? What you can do with these attributes?
Average salary,
Average,
highest age.
highest age,
Resume.
highest age. Print list of employees, correct? These are all called as functions. Yeah. So these are all called as methods using which these attributes are helpful, right? Otherwise, again, these attributes don't have any meaning. So methods makes use of these attributes, right? These attributes depends upon the class, and to do all these things, you require object, right? So now we have method, we have attributes, but if no employee is there, means how will you do all this, right? So object is like an employee here. These are the attributes of the object, employee, and these are the methods which you can apply on this object, right? So this is the relationship between class and object. So once you understand this, then the programming becomes interesting. So please understand what is the need of class and why object. Okay. So object is an entity. This is a very important definition. The object is an entity which has state and behavior. See, class may not be having a state, but object has a state and behavior. So you know that college name is Gokraju Rangaraju College, right? Gokraju Rangaraju College of Engineering and Technology. Does it mean that the people of the Gokraju or only employees are working there? Who is actually having main work in the Gokraju Rangaraju College? The objects, which are students. So students have a certain state and behavior. Based on that, the college name, the college functionality will be depending upon. So objects are important factors in any OOPS concept, right? So see, this word is very important. Everything in Python is object, and almost everything has attributes and methods. So whatever doing in Python is considered as an object only. Your class, your list, your data type, right? The functions, whatever you are using. So they all comes under the object category, and every object, almost every object works with attributes and methods, correct? So these things I discussed in the last class. So how to create a class in the Python? So you need to use a class keyword. When we define a class, it needs to create an object to allocate memory. I told you, what is the meaning of this line? Please understand this. You already learned this in the structures, right? Structures concept in the first year you learned. So if you define struct keyword student, right? If you declare some variables inside, int name, int age, something like this, it is similar to that now. So this structure doesn't have any meaning until you create a structure variable, correct? Similarly, the class doesn't have any meaning until the class allocated a memory for that. So who will allocate the memory for the class? The compiler will allocate the memory for the class as soon as you create an object, correct? It needs to create an object to allocate the memory. So just by defining the class, your problem will not be solved. Okay, you have to create an object. So just by creating a college, you can't say it is a college. Students has to be admitted, employees has to work, right? Facilities should be there. Then only it is a proper class, you can say, proper college, you can say. So it is, as you can see, always compare this OOPS concept to your real life, real world. It becomes easy to understand. Then every class comes up with the inbuilt function called as init, or you can call it as a initialization. Double underscore, this is underscore, init underscore, right? So every class has this inbuilt function, and it can also have its user defined function, right? So if you don't define any function, the compiler calls something called as constructor. I will tell you in the coming sessions. So here we are creating a class car, right? And we are passing two parameters to that. One is the variable Toyota and 2016. Okay. So see here, in order to access the members of the class, right? We require this VAR or any name you can give it. So don't get confused that why we are not passing one more parameter here. So this is something called as self parameter. Okay, which should be always there, like a pointer it is acting as. So model name and year are coming from this line. So what is this 8th line is telling you? What is that? It is nothing but creating object of the class. So when you write this line, what we are doing? We are creating an object of the class. So how to create an object of the class? You can give an object name followed by the class name. What is my class name? Car. Followed by what are the parameters that you are passing to that car. Okay. So these are two values that I'm passing to the parameter to this class, right? This line tells you how to create an object. So C1, C2 are the objects. And this class has its own method called as display. So how you are accessing the methods from the object using dot operator, C1 dot display, C2 dot display. Again, we are passing. Can you tell me, anyone, can you tell me, here display is accepting some parameter here, but I'm not passing any parameter here. Is it similar to your C concept?
Yes.
How it is similar? What is the rule in C? So in C language, your parameters that you are passing and the definition, both of them should match or not. Say in the function call, I am passing one parameter. In the function definition also, there should be a variable to match up with the one value, right? But when I'm writing this line, am I passing any parameter here? So we're not passing any parameter here. We are passing empty values C1 dot display. But here parameter is there. So what is this VAR? Why we are not passing any value here?
Because it is self parameter, sir. It is not considered.
So just now I told you that every class should have what parameter? Self parameter. So basically I've changed the name of the parameter here. Generally in a lot of codes, in the textbooks, they will use the keyword as self only. Okay. Self. You can use the self default. Self is nothing but default parameter, you can say. So self keyword is used for what purpose? To access. Where is
The methods in a class.
Yeah. So self keyword will help you to access okay. So alignment is very important. Okay. So self dot model name, self dot here. So this parameter is always fixed. So if you don't have any parameters to be passed to this this car function here, suppose model name and here you are not passing, still this has to be there. Got it? So self will help you to access the methods and variables that are there in the given class. Okay. So all this inheritance polymorphism I will tell you once again in the coming classes, but right now no need to worry much about. In the last class, I think I've explained what is inheritance. Basically, what is inheritance? Anyone? C1 is a
Like
self.
getting values from one class to another class.
So it is like borrowing the data from one person, right? Or you can say you borrowed the data parameter, you borrowed your characteristics from your parents borrowed the characteristics from your grandparents. So there is a similarity between how you look, how you talk, right? So it is called as inheritance. So inheritance concept in real life, same thing is applied to the most of the object oriented programming concept. That means I don't want to write everything under one code. Somebody has written a code, he has done something. I want to implement that same thing, but apply some new features, correct? That is called as inheritance. I'll inherit some of the properties from of the values from the existing class and use them to do other operations in my own class. That is called as inheritance. So what is the main purpose of the inheritance? If somebody asks, what should be your answer? Your answer should be reusability of the code. Okay. So it's the most important feature Why inheritance is used? So inheritance is used for reusability of the code. Polymorphism means, again, one task can be performed in a multiple way, right? So that is called as a polymorphism. Suppose there is a function which is named as a display, right? So this display sometimes displays 2 values, sometimes displays 3 values, sometimes displays 4 values. But what is the common function of this particular display function? To display the values, right? But depending upon how many values you are passing to this display, it is printing the data on the screen. So that is called as polymorphism, correct? Having the same name, but doing the multiple task. That is called as polymorphism. Suppose if you are an all-rounder cricketer, can you call that as a polymorphism? Suppose you take an example of Ravindra Jadeja, he is a cricketer. Can you call that Ravindra Jadeja comes under polymorphism? Can you call him? Because he can bat also, he can bowl also, right? And he is a very great fielder also, right? So one person is having how many characteristics? 3 characteristics, right? So what is the common property for them? He is also cricketer, but he is having 3 different features: bat, ball, and fielder. So you can call that person as a polymorphism, right? So polymorphism is also very important in real life, because some things are already there. I want to be able to do the other things based on the given same name. Then encapsulation and data abstraction is a very important feature, which we are already doing in real life, hiding the important features and showing only the necessary data. Can you call the test case that I am putting in the Moodle comes under encapsulation and data abstraction, right? Both of them are almost same only. Can you call this test cases that I am putting in Moodle comes under this category? If it is so, why? What is the reason? What are the test cases doing for you guys? Are you able to see all the test cases?
No.
I am only showing you certain test cases, but I am hiding most of the test cases, right? And a requested file, only one test case is visible for you. But if your program is not matching, then all the test cases are visible, correct? But you people give me one more solution. So most of you people were misusing that. Now I come up with another feature. So where I am not showing you the test case at all, that is called as data abstraction. So abstraction means hiding the internal details and show only functionalities. So I will tell you what should be done, but I won't show you exactly what it is. That is called as abstraction. Encapsulation is meant used to restrict access to the methods and variables, correct? Used to restrict access to the methods and variables. Can you call this encapsulation, for example? Can you access other section data in your
No,
section?
sir.
Suppose all of you are into one particular section in Moodle, right? Are you able to switch to any section that you want to? No, right? That is called as encapsulation. Used to give restrict access to certain methods and variables. But it is visible to you guys. That is the feature of the object-oriented programming. We are not hiding anything from you, but we are showing the things, but we are not giving you the access. That is called as encapsulation, right? So in real time, all these things are important. So only certain features you can access, but other things you can't access. It is like, in HackerRank, there is a concept called as hackos, right? If you click on hackos, certain test cases will be revealed. Until you click on the hackos, it won't be revealed. It will be hidden actually. So you have to pay extra 5 hackos to see the test case. That is called as encapsulation. So these are all real-time features. Like you can take your PUBG game people are playing, right? So there, if you want to purchase something, it is hidden initially until certain level you reach, it is visible. So all this comes under encapsulation concept. So these are fundamental 5. How many are there? 5 to 6 concepts that comes under major principles of, we call them as major principles of object-oriented programming. Okay, these 3 though, it should be there in every program from now on. So make sure that when you see the keyword object-oriented programming, these 3 things should be there. These may not be there because they may be needed or may not be needed based on the situation, but every object-oriented program should be having a class, certain values, certain methods, and to access them, we require one object. So otherwise, we can't call it as an object-oriented program. Okay. So quickly see this code and tell me whether it comes under. Do we have any, again, same code, right? Are we printing some message? Yes. Again, we are not passing any parameter, but there is a self parameter. So it is the same code like before. So what is the need of self parameter? Self parameter refers to the current instance of class. Init method, in order to make instance of the class Python, a specific function called init is used. Although it is used to set the object attributes, it is also referred as what? Constructor. So please remember what is the name of this init? It is called as constructor. It is inbuilt. It has to be there. If you don't mention also, it will be there. Then what is DEF? To define the user defined methods. We are using DEF keyword. This is the name of the method. Every method should end with a colon. The self argument is what? Self argument is the only one required by the init method. At any cost, it has to be there. So what we are doing here again, see, this is what this comes under which. Does it come under init or does it come under any other method? It comes under class, right? So you can say that this is attribute. This class has an attribute called as count. And does it have any method, guys? Does this program have any methods? I told class, method, objects are important, right? Does it has any method to do the operation in this code? Are we having any method to print the data?
No, sir.
No, right? So how we are initializing the values then? We are initializing the value using, obviously we are passing object data here, right? But this particular variable which comes under this class person, we are accessing using what? How we are accessing, please see. If you want to access the variables, the data values that comes under the class, you should mention that class name, person.count, right? Using the name of the class, we are incrementing the count. That means for every person that I'm creating the object, I want to increment the count value. Okay. Then we are printing again. What we are printing? Person.count. So to access, basically, what is it telling you? To access the variable that comes under the class, you require dot operator. The variable name should be the class name. Using class name, you can access the individual variables from the given class, person.count. So we don't have any method to display here, but without method, you can still do the operation by using what? Dot operator. So for example, if I write print person dot name, does it work? So it won't work. Why? Because tell me why it is not going to work.
Because name is an attribute in the init.
So how will you modify this code to print the data that I've entered separately? How will you print this name and age value? Where will you write this code? So that
Like
part you need
print
to
self.name.
Ante ikkada right here.
Yes.
Or you will write what you said is here you want to write self.name.
Yes, sir.
What is the message you are getting? So see here, you are accessing this particular name outside the given context. So compiler will not understand whether should I access this person name or this person name, correct? So you saw in the previous code here, what we did here? See here, where is this self.name I've added? Does it comes under the part of this class or not? So to access the values, where you need to enter them?
in a method of a class.
Is it necessary again? That is my question. So am I able to print now? Is it printing? So method is not mandatory when you just want to do the print operation, correct? Did I create any method here? No. But what I did, the same statement I added inside the init function. Suppose if I write here, again, why it is not working? Because this comes out of the context of the given class, correct? So it has to be part of the class only. Which class? Part of the init class. So this printing has to be done within this define init, then only it is going to work. So that's why the importance of the self parameter. I wanted to just tell you where to use the self dot keyword. So you can't use it wherever you want it. It has to be inside some function or inside the init. So in the previous example here, what we did? Yeah. We are taking the init parameter, self parameter in the greet function. Then using that we are doing here. But again, this particular function is within the context of the class person. You can't write it outside the context of the class person. For example, I'll write here. I just remove the space. What is happening? Person object has no attribute greet, because this is now considered as a separate class, separate function. It doesn't come under the context of class person. Got it? You should be careful when you do the such kind of operations in object oriented programming. So where you are accessing the context, you should have a clarity. Got it? So this is the function, greet function comes inside the class person, right? So if you don't want to create a separate function, what you can do? You can call the direct print function. Right? Still it is working or not? Now I deleted the greet function, directly printed the data values of the parameters that I'm passing using print function. Got it? So these kind of things, basics, you need to have a clarity. So why we need class is very important. So I'll just cover this and end the today's session. So first thing that people will ask you is why you need class. You already have C programming. Why you require class? Correct? So you know, right? Data structures like numbers, strings, list, they are designed to represent what? Information. Right? Cost of apple, name of poem. So all these things. For example, see this this question. Let's say you want to track employees in an organization. What do you need? You need to store some basic information about each employee, such as their name, age, position. Okay. So how will you do this? Using normal concept that you are already doing using list. So I'll create an employee list and store all these values, right? Employee, store all these values. These are the different set of values are required. What is the problem with this approach? Suppose the company has 1,000 employees. How many lists you need to create? You need to create 1,000 separate lists, correct or not? So which is not feasible. So that is the first thing. So when you go for the brute force approach, you can't do this in large scale. It can make larger code files more difficult to manage. Then again, even though if you're able to do that, suppose if I want to access the employee data of 100th value. So you need to remember who is the data stored in employee 100 position. Who is the person stored in employee 40 position, right? So you need to write several lines of code and remember everything that you have done manually using brute force approach. So that's why it is not feasible to store large number of data using the normal approach that we have learned. So we need to apply the concept of hoops to do these things in larger scale, right? So several lines away from where this particular data is created, will you remember that the element with index 0 is the employee name? Basically, who is the employee 1? Can you remember employee 1 of 0? You can't remember. So you have to know who is that person, then only you can apply this index, right? In large scale, basically, it is not possible to store the data in this brute force approach. We need to have a better mechanism to deal the larger data. That's why OOPS is one of the important, or the class basically is important concept for any language, right? So first you need to understand why it is important, why you are learning. So brush up all the things that I've explained, right? Now go and solve the problems of the data structure list. So in the coming days, I will be adding a lot of questions based on the classes and OOPS also. So you just need to focus on the things that are conducted in the model, right? So in the coming class, I will be continuing with the class of a lot of topics based on the Python OOPS concept, like class, methods, object, inheritance, polymorphism, different types of constructors. A lot of things are there. So it takes so much sessions to cover the OOPS concepts only. So don't miss the coming sessions. We will be exploring more problems. Okay. So we'll see you in the next session. Tomorrow, please utilize the lab timing for practicing the Python problems for 1.5 hours. We'll see you in the next session. Any doubts you have, you can ask me. Okay, I'm ending the session.